Hi, my name's Sally, and I'm really looking forward to our session together in a few days' time. I would like to take this opportunity to run a quick recap or a quick overview of the colour energy theory that we will talk about in more detail. So, hopefully, you will have received your profile by now. And hopefully also you will have read it. If you haven't read it before you listen to this video, that's okay. But if I can ask you to read it before our session, that would be really helpful. I'd also ask you to fill in the Knowing Me document as well, because that will really help us as we work together as a team. So in terms of the colour theory, it's based on Jung's theory of personality, and he talks about preference. So this isn't a report that will tell you what you are good at doing in terms of a job and what you can't do as a job. The theory behind this is that you could do any job, but this is your colour blend. So this is what you bring to the work that you do. So we don't try and say that you can't, we don't use it really for recruitment, and we don't say that you have this colour blend, which means that you can't do something in a different way. So it's just the way that you approach your life, your style, your work, and this is how you get the best results. So this is a celebration of you. And I know sometimes that can be really hard to hear because we're really good at looking at our negatives. But what I'd encourage you to do is read your profile as though it is that best friend that puts their arms around you and say, this is you, this is how great you are. And to really start celebrating your strengths. Time and time, studies show that when we celebrate our strengths, we develop much further than when we focus too much on our weaknesses. Understanding where our strengths might not get the best results is really important, and we will cover that. But when we look at what we're good at and we build on that, that's where our personal development really kicks in. So Jung talks about introversion and extroversion as one of the first preferences that we talk about, and you probably are familiar with that phrase. So if I tell you that my friend Joe is a real extrovert, that might conjure up a whole load of ideas about what Joe might be. And if I say Joe's friend Charlie is a real introvert, you also might then have a few thoughts about how Charlie might come across. Introversion and extroversion is about where you get your energy from. So as an extrovert, I get my energy from external sources. I like to connect with people, to talk to people. And by that way, I'm naturally seen as a bit more outgoing than maybe somebody who's more introverted. So we talk about the extrovert being somebody who likes to be talkative, involved, sometimes outspoken, bold and active. They have an outward focus. The introvert preference is more quiet and observant. They're thoughtful, cautious, passive sometimes, and they have an inward focus. They get their energy from within themselves. So quite often somebody who has an introvert preference will enjoy spending a lot of time on their own, recharging their batteries in quiet spaces, and liking time to think. And we see that play out at work quite often with the idea of silence. So that little space that I gave you there probably had the result of one or two things. Either you kind of went, oh, has she frozen? Do I need to speak? That's probably a more extrovert preference. We like to fill the silences. And if you have more of an introvert preference, you might go, oh, that's nice. That gives me space to think. And sometimes in meetings particularly, we watch how the extroverts want to talk lots and fill the silences. And actually the introverts would prefer just a bit more space, and they might speak up at that point as well. So that's introversion and extroversion. The second preferences are a decision-making preference. So how do you come to conclusions, decisions? And that is thinking and feeling. So you probably have heard people talk about, do you make a decision with your head or your heart? And this is what we're talking about. So people who have a thinking preference often revert to logic, systems and processes. So they will look at analysis and sometimes be a little bit more distant than somebody with a feeling preference. The feeling preference is often slightly more involved. It looks at empathy, values, and harmony. Let me give you an example. In my workshops, I talk about, I give people a scenario, and that scenario is that they are a manager. They're directly responsible for managing a team of people, and they've just found out that one of those team members has a severe drugs problem. And I asked the people in the workshop, what would they do? What's their natural reaction? What are their thoughts? And quite often, so I'm going to give you a bit of an extreme example of thinking and feeling, so hopefully it might trigger something for you that helps you identify with what your preference might be. Quite often the feeling preference will go first, and they will say something like, why didn't I pick this up before? I want to know what help this person needs. What do they need from the business? In fact, and I have actually had people in my workshop previously pick up their laptop and tap away on their computer screen, and people said, what are you doing? And they said, I'm looking for how much it would cost the business to send that person to the Priory, and actually I think we should do it paid so that they don't lose out on their salary at the same time. At this point, I look at somebody who I think has a more thinking preference, and their shoulders are a little bit higher than everybody else's. And I ask them what they think, and they just say, it's gross misconduct. Get them out. So the thinking preference can be a little bit more thicker skinned. Looking at systems and processes, they might talk about detaching the emotion. They might say, we need to rip the plaster off. Whereas the feeling preference will look at the nuances, look at the connections, look at the individual situation, and apply their approach on that way. And I'm sure you can see that both preferences work really well. And quite often people will start with one and then move on to another. So I know that I lead with a thinking preference, but I will also therefore move into feeling and go, what am I missing? And quite often people will understand that. And as you go through your profile, this is about raising your self-awareness. So understanding what your natural approach might be, but also knowing that there might be a balance. There might be something we need to consider, and that's designed to help you with that. So the colour theory is that we're made up of 4 colour energies, that we lead with one and we have one that's the least dominant. And those colour energies are made up of introversion and extroversion and thinking and feeling. So it works out like this. We have fiery red, thinking extrovert. These guys are be bright, be brief, be gone. They characterise themselves as being competitive, demanding, strong-willed, purposeful. They like to talk in bullet points, and they like the one-page plan. Sunshine yellow, we move from thinking extrovert to feeling extrovert. These guys are the relationship builders. They are sociable, dynamic, demonstrative, enthusiastic and persuasive. And their phrase on the blocks is involve me. These are the relationship builders, the connectors. These are the people that want the big picture and work really well with often very little detail, but with connection and building relationships. Earth green is your introverted feeling. So feeling introvert, we move round the wheel in that way. These are the people who are caring, encouraging, sharing, patient and relaxed. And the phrase on the block there is show me you care. These are the people that are often the emotional temperature checkers of an organisation. They sense things from the ground up. They work very carefully to make sure that everybody is okay, that there is harmony within the organisation. They're people orientated. And cool blue, cautious, precise, deliberate, questioning and formal. These are the thinking introverts. So we've moved all the way around the wheel at that point. Their focus and their phrase is give me details. They like to look at lots of in-depth information. I often say the people that like to read the manual, as long as that doesn't offend anybody, I generally read the manual when something's gone wrong. These are the people that are more likely to prepare ahead of time, prefer an agenda rather than to sort of think on their feet and and all of that. So those are the good day words, but as you can imagine, what generally happens is we don't always have good days. So I know I've told you that my colour blend, so let me share with you my colour blend. That's my colour blend, so fiery red, sunshine yellow, cool blue and earth green. That's how I generally get results. I pride myself with holding people to account, by being challenging, and being quite fast paced with how I approach my life and my work. I pride myself on the idea that my good day words mean that I am competitive, demanding, strong-willed and purposeful. But what I have to be aware of is that, especially for somebody who doesn't share my colour blend, they might actually see me as my bad day words. They might see me as aggressive, controlling, strong-willed and purposeful. Have a look at your bad day words. They're supposed to be a watch out. They're not supposed to be something that you're particularly proud of. They're supposed to be that bit where you go, oh, okay, I would have preferred not to have appeared like that. And again, that's raising your self-awareness. So that's that kind of overused strength idea. I will see you in your session. I'm really looking forward to seeing you. And I will most probably ask you at that point why you do what you do. And that's very much linked to your colour blend as well. So what is it that fires you up? What's important to you about your world and how you operate? What is it that people do when they step on your toes, when maybe they don't get the best results or reaction from you? And we'll build on that in our session. So thank you so much. I shall see you in our session. Have a great day.